Hello everyone. Before I start talking about websites and how e-commerce has evolved, one of the things that I want to draw attention to is the size of the market and how it all began. The very first recorded e-commerce transaction was actually a drug deal between artificial intelligence students at MIT and at Stanford. It's, back then there was already a commerce. There was already, mail ordering and various forms of commerce. However, the very first recorded transaction that was online, it was in 1971. And since 1971, we've come a long way. The online e-commerce market is $2.5 trillion worth. And that is actually still dwarfed by the actual commerce out there. However, the interesting statistic in here is that 85% of offline commerce is still impacted by online experiences. Therefore, it is almost unthinkable not to have a presence on the web. As Graham spoke earlier, people do their research. People go take a look at a product, go around the web, they have high expectations, even though they're going to walk into a store and buy those things. So, looking at people who do this really well, a good example that comes to mind is Amazon. And what Amazon does is more than just figuring out their warehouses, their shipping, and various other strategies. They've got that covered. But what they also really do well is understanding every single one of their visitors. They have data on what products you've looked at, what products you've added to your basket, and like I forgot her last name, that old lady was talking about, Miss Bridget. They use this data. They use this data to their advantage. They know everything that you looked at, and later on, if you haven't bought, they try to entice you to buy that. And beyond that, Amazon actually has a great example of not only looking at all the data that's on the site, they also gather information via third-party technologies from other e-commerce sites sometimes, figuring out what products you're interested in. And they have operationalized this data supply chain really well to understand what a visitor is, what a customer is. And they built this profile of this visitor. So when that visitor comes onto the site, they're able to figure out what they're going to do to that customer. They're able to understand every single thing that person has looked at and be able to retrieve that profile at ad tech speeds, which are in tens of milliseconds, and run them through various different algorithms. And when you look at the algorithms that Amazon has implemented, they actually have over 9 different algorithms for their product recommendations. Because the recommendation that you do for shoes is essentially different than the product recommendation algorithm you want to run for your DVDs or car parts. They want to understand visitor behavior. They want to understand what makes a product enticing, what makes a product interesting. And essentially, every single product that's sitting in there has different attributes. They want to make sure those attributes come into the algorithm and play a role in making the decision of what to show to that customer. Every single one of you today, when you go onto Amazon, you all see a different storefront. And usually Amazon is not shy about it, and it says, hello Emre, welcome back, this is your Amazon storefront. And they show me products around what I've been interested in on the web, on their website, in various different places. Many of the leaders out there, of online leaders, have done this from scratch. And that leaves you guys in a weird position because you need to actually compete with Amazon's. When it comes to e-commerce, every single product that's out there is potentially available via Amazon or something that's relevant to it. So going back to the Jeff Bezos diagram, you need to start providing a better customer experience to your visitors. I often make a comparison online world to the offline world. One of the things that I really like is stores that change their windows. On average, an offline retailer changes 1 to 2 times a month their stores. And they try to actually put products in there that is going to capture your attention, that's going to capture the mass attention, that is going to actually personalize the storefront for the business's need. But the one flaw of this thinking is they need to actually do that. It's not a flaw, but they need to optimize their storefront. They only have a single storefront to show to everyone. What that means is looking through their data, They look at what is the maximum opportunity, what is the biggest opportunity, and they try to capitalize on that. And you need to improve on this. We need to improve on this, because every single person, when they go onto a website, they don't need to see the same storefront. And we need to make sure that we can personalize this experience for the users. How many of you here collect visitor feedback from your website? All right, that's about 50%, I would say. And how many of you take that visitor feedback and directly correlate with the rest of your analytics? I see 1 hand, 2 hands, and 3. So what this talks to is you have to build a platform that not only understands your visitors, not only understands your analytics, but actually can put this quantitative and qualitative data together. You can't just take a look at your statistics and see a very high bounce rate on a given website. And on your website, you can see that bounce rate for a specific category of pages or specific category of products and make assumptions. You need to actually take a look at what your visitors are saying, who are leaving those pages or who are visiting those pages, what they are saying, rather than some analyst trying to come up with a reason why people have been bouncing off a page because the images aren't looking that great. That's just one person's opinion. However, when you link that data to your visitor and what they are actually saying, you have a much more powerful data source. This is very much the same when you actually have a sales assistant in a store. The direct feedback you get from your sales assistants is very valuable. And that's one of the things that we want to make sure that with your data, once understanding your data, it isn't just looking at statistics, but understanding your data is actually understanding your visitors and their real voice. So I'm going to take you through 6 ideas, 6 big business challenges that our clients have been facing and how we have actually approached in solving them. And these are, again, they are the tip of the iceberg. One of the things that we want to make sure with Qubit we enable is any business challenge or any big ideas you have, we want to be able to provide you with a platform that you can deliver those solutions. Let's face the reality. 97% of the visitors who visit your website will not convert. There's a huge opportunity here to improve on. One of our clients has actually implemented a method through their metrics that are predicting users' preferences. Rather than showing the blank page or the standard template to their users when they arrive, they actually run through various predictive metrics that understand whether somebody is interested in shorts or whether they're interested in the Chloe brand. And based on that, their next page experience is about showing them more shorts or showing them more products from Chloe. Secondly, you need to understand your stock. You need to understand your stock turn. There is a lot of waste in food industry. There is a lot of waste in the hospitality industry. And above all, there's a lot of waste in fashion. Every year, a lot of products go unsold, and one of the big challenges is what do we do with this with the stock, and then you go off and doing various other things. Or sometimes there are products that are sold out, they're completely out of stock, and there's a lot of missed opportunity behind those page views that keep showing sold out, out of stock, out of stock. You need to be able to implement analytics that are in real time, that understand your various different products, product categories, or SKUs, and how fast they are depleting. How fast they are being sold in what geographies, so you can actually provide that data to your warehouses or to your suppliers where you can actually acquire more stock. An interesting way one of our clients have implemented it in the US is that they get stock into their warehouse about 2 weeks, into their online warehouse about 2 weeks before any of their stores get it. They actually use that 2 weeks to figure out in what geographies what products sell best. Because ultimately, going back to what I was saying earlier, they still have a challenge of a storefront and putting things into the window. They use the data they get to maximize their opportunity. They use data that they get from online to figure out in what geographies what products sell best, and feed that data to every single store in different geographies so that they can have the most popular products from the beginning of the season in their store window. Another solution that we've seen around this is actually in the travel market. Under being able to persuade, using the principles of persuasion, showing visitors how many seats left in a different area, in a single flight, how many rooms are still available in a given hotel, and being able to do that at the right time to the right visitor. So you don't want to give discounts to your visitors too early on, because there's going to be a lot of missed opportunity in terms of revenue, and you don't want to do that too late because you're going to end up with spare rooms. So it's critical to understand how fast your products are being sold. It's critical to understand where you're selling those products and be able to influence in different micro geographies or micro areas, be able to influence these solutions. Once you start selling your products, you have a customer. And one of our studies show that returning customers who have purchased from you are 10 times more likely to repurchase. We need to put this into use. If you know that statistic, if you know a visitor has shown up on your website, we need to make sure that we understand how much they've spent and how much they're likely to spend next time. If you can predict what a customer's lifetime value is, you can actually start doing things much earlier. You can invite the right sets of visitors into your VIP programs. And then you can test which visitors are in the VIP program yield best, and then you can keep refining your strategy to acquire visitors into your VIP programs earlier. Of course, the traditional way of doing this is you can just keep you can have your visitor records. You can keep collecting how much they purchase. Once they hit a threshold, just like the airline miles out there, they go into the next tier. But I wish an airline knew that for over the next 3 years, I'll be traveling every week. Then after my very first visit, my very first flight, they can actually upgrade me to the next level of status. Nobody out there does that. To be able to predictively do that well, you need to understand, you need to start predicting your visitors, your customers' lifetime value. And geography is another big, especially in Europe, it's a big challenge. In Europe, compared to the US, we have multicultural, multilingual, multi-law, environments. What that means is there's a lot of money being spent in a tight geography across different borders. And I'm guessing many of you here have a website that translates into multiple languages. But what do you do beyond just doing translations and having shipping rates for different countries? Do you take the step beyond that where you actually start actively communicating visitors that visit your site from different areas, different countries? You need to be able to deliver personalization for your visitors geographically, by their culture. And we have an example of DFS, one of our clients, and they serve a localized content. They actually know which country you're coming in from, and based on the availability of stock, they tell you when something can be delivered to you. Another challenge is mobile. The mobile is not going anywhere. In the past, people thought, oh, who would need a mobile phone? I remember my father saying that circa 1991. And then he got one mobile phone, and then he gave it to me and used it as an electronic leash. And that was the limit of his mobile phone use case. Now, I actually, every time I go back home, I have to set up his next iPhone, so he keeps upgrading. However, we are seeing a big increase in mobile usage. There is a 35% increase in mobile engagement over last year. And in mobile, we have a different interesting challenge. As mobile phones get smaller, although they have very high pixel content, it's very hard to see everything in a small screen. Mobile phones have a bigger challenge of limited screen real estate than websites. What that means is you need to actually start fitting more things onto a screen. And this is one of the things that we have done with TOPSHOP. when they rolled out their new mobile website, we were able to add more personalization and more messaging into their website, into mobile website very easily, and guiding them through what are the steps and how to navigate this new website. Very early on in my career, I was lucky enough to work with Marissa Mayer, who's now the CEO of Yahoo. And one of her guiding principles for sorting out all the user interfaces at Google was, she used to say, every user one day will become a power user. It's a question of how quickly you get that person into being a power user. And in mobile, we have a similar challenge. You have limited screen real estate. You have to cram in a lot of buttons. And if you can actually, in their first visit, go and talk to that visitors and show them the ways of guiding that website, you're going to gain a customer for life. Because you don't need to be showing every single time where the checkout button is or where the shopping cart button is. Once you can provide that messaging, it's going to take its own life, and the users will never ever need that messaging again. They will become that power user. When we did this, these pointers for TOPSHOP, we've actually seen a 4% increase in adding to basket cases. And our sixth challenge is understanding your customer behavior across different channels. Your customers, this goes back to understanding your visitors and understanding your visitor data. Although you have some customers that come from desktop, tablet, mobile, and God knows the difference where we cross tablet into mobile, because I've seen a lot of people putting their almost tablets on their ear. Visitors tend to behave differently on different devices, even the same user. A case study, which is in your packs, talks about how customers of Ann Summers, Ann Summers, tend to look far more into bondage products when they're on a tablet than on their desktop. There are certain things out there that we cannot really explain that create some sort of safety or various other things, but you need to rely on data. And if you know certain clients look at certain products in a certain environment, you need to start catering to that need. You need to start making sure the personalization you deliver is actually done through the right channel to the right user as well. So, to be able to deliver all these things, what do you need to do? What are the principles that you need to start adopting? Number one, you need to really start understanding your visitor. Your visitor who visits you online has a first-party data. That's classic things that you collect from your website. What page view they've been on, and where did they come from. Then, on top of that, there is the data layer that you need to understand on top of it. It's not just about the page view somebody's on. It's about what product is in there. What product is in there? What color is that product? What type of other products are available? And then, like layers of an onion, start adding more data points on top of it. And what is the context of this visit now? What are the other third-party systems providing you about this data? How is the weather at the time? What are the other DMPs or third-party CRM solutions or solutions are providing? Once you start adding those, you have not only what somebody's doing, but in what context they have been doing it. Recently, a couple of weeks ago, I was on a panel, and one of the questions that was asked was, what is big data? What defines big data? Big data is ability to not only store the single data point you're looking. The big data is ability to store the raw event as it happened, along with every other data point that goes with it. Because you want to be able to analyze not only the data that you're interested in, all these other dimensions, because most likely you will find an insight. You will find a new dimension in there that starts impacting the visitor's journey. And big data is being able to store all those events with all the context and everything in it, not having to aggregate it at storage time, and the ability to be able to keep reprocessing data for all of your needs. Once you have all this data, once you have your visitors, then you need a scalable personalization platform. And that comes into two flavors. Number one, you need to be able to deploy tests, deploy personalizations and test them. You want to make sure that every single personalization you deploy has a positive impact on your conversion, has a positive impact on your revenue, or any other metric that you're really interested in optimizing. Very often we see experiments deployed by our clients where there's an increase in conversion rate but a steep decline in revenue, or the other way around. You have to make sure that you can monitor all these different metrics when you deploy your personalization. A very good example of it with several clients we do this, where we have different thresholds of discounts that are introduced. Very intuitively, if you give someone a 50% discount, that's going to convert at a much higher rate than people who get 10% discount. But when the reality hits, when you start looking at the revenue, you suddenly start seeing that giving 50% discount is actually detrimental to your business. So you can actually start testing these different thresholds and figure out what is going to give you the best result for your business. And secondly, for black box solutions, there are good things about them, there are bad things about them, but the one thing about black box solutions out there, for whether they are product recommendations, whether they are for various other predictive metrics, is that they give zero control to you. And that's a great thing. If you're a startup, you don't have time to optimize any of these things, that's a great thing. Put it in there, forget about it. However, every single one of you here have a business, and every single one of the businesses you represent have different needs. The black box solution is not able to cater for every single one of your needs. And it goes back to the law of averages. They cater to a need of the average e-commerce provider and leave a lot of things untapped. Having the solution is not enough. You need to have a team that believes in continuous testing. You need to have a team that believes in no two customers of yours are the same. And going back to what Graham was saying, you need to put together a team that can not only write JavaScript, but has an angle of understanding marketing, what the business challenges are. You need to have an analyst who can actually analyze the past data. You need to have a designer who's going to go in that team to deliver that solution. And once you have that team, that's not enough either. It's not a waterfall approach where, okay, for the next 3 months, we're going to implement this new checkout process where we actually point missing things to clients, various other things. If you do that in a waterfall approach, guess what? Most likely in 3 months, the users that you have built that solution for already become power users. You've actually lost a lot of time. You need to try these things fast. You need to put them in, and you need to make sure that they are adding value to your business. And lastly, you need a budget to support all this. And this goes back to, if you put the team together, you have some budget. However, the reality is a typical e-commerce site over the lifetime of a customer spends $92 for acquisition of that customer, compared to $1 they use to convert those visitors. So it's not just the acquisition. I wish these were the early days of internet where you can actually put $100 into an ad campaign, a click is 1 cent, voila, you automatically got 10,000 clicks, visitors, and you convert them. Advertising is getting more expensive. Advertising follows a bidding and auction model. When the prices go up from 1 cent a click, $1 a click, or even above, you can't keep affording just putting more money into it and getting more visitors. You need to start making sure that those visitors, when they come on site, have a good experience so that they will actually keep coming back to your website, not via a paid channel and actually via an unpaid channel. You need to make sure that every single interaction they make with your website is an enjoyable one, so you can actually bring them back at a much cheaper rate.
One-to-one personalization is what everybody's been striving for, but the reality of it is that if you literally came up with an idea for every single one of your customers, you're probably not investing your time in the right place. What you need to be thinking about is sort of scalable strategies. How do you have a sort of scalable communication with all your customers? So we always think about it as create sort of around 20 different segments. So you have your VIPs who spend more than 10,000 a year. You have your people who put things in a basket who've bought before. You have people who visit the site lots but never buy. Have all your different 20 segments. Calculate the predicted value of each of those 20 segments, and then create a creative strategy for each one of those. In each of those creative strategies, you can create a one-to-one communication because the creative can be very personalized around what the user's done or looked at before. And so that's sort of an approach that scales quite well and will probably drive you quite a big percentage increase in revenue.
Technically, there are several ways of doing that. Well, a traditional way that's been done with the DMPs and various other technology companies is that there are a lot of these technologies, third-party data providers actually provide their solutions within the browser. So there are other pixels that you can provide, and we're able to ingest all that data while the visitor's on the page. So that way, there's no back-end integration, and it's very straightforward. It comes with the visitor data. However, when you look at offline data sources, and such as email addresses and various other data that you have in your backends, we're able to ingest all of that data into our visitor clouds via APIs, and by recognizing visitors on the keys that our clients provide, and a very common one being an email address of a client. And this actually builds on top of the previous thing I was talking about, where we collect all this data into Visitor Cloud. We collect all the data that you have in your CMS systems or CRM systems, order management systems into Visitor Cloud via APIs. All of our applications and all of our products are built on top of a single data source that we have. And it's key for, whether you're using Qubit or not, it's key to have this data ready and accessible with all of your different applications that need to use it.
Just to add, I think we're seeing a major shift in how businesses are using data. Data's been very siloed and difficult to operate around. So we've designed a set of APIs that enable you to send us data in multiple different ways. So whether it's you want to send us a bulk of a huge file, or whether you want to send us a live stream of something or something in between, we're creating API models to allow you to work with the existing structure within your business. I think bulk is the easiest. It's easy to send a big blob of data via an FTP transfer or something like that. But then sending streaming is it's more real time, but it's more complex in setting those things up. But this is the future of where things are going. It's how you move data around. We call it data supply chain. It's a really key principle.
And when we implemented this at Qubit, the one visitor data warehouse that we have, Visitor Cloud, has no more privileged access to it that our clients would have. These APIs that Graham is mentioning are used by our applications day-to-day, on a day-to-day basis. And if you want to build your own application on top of your customer data, the same APIs are available, the same data access is available to you. If you don't have your data, you're flying blind. And this goes back to the nice the drawing that Graham showed. If you're just doing the same thing over and over, everybody's going to pass you. Everybody is going to start using that data more intelligently to acquire their customers. At the end of the day, there are a limited number of customers out there, and whoever is providing the best service is going to win. And in order to be able to provide the best service, you need to know the most about your customers.
And I suppose there's something in there about the way Guy, Bo, and Thomas Cooke was talking about not just using the data, but being able to communicate the results across departments. So, for example, that marketers understand it's a brand play as well as just a targeted, personalised play.
Yeah, I think businesses have used data for a long time. They've just used it in the wrong way. And it's about changing that mindset. So the concept of reporting and static reporting and producing PDFs of reports on what's happened week on week is probably not the way you're going to diagnose a major problem in your business or where the future growth is going to come from. So it's about changing the mindset from the board to the executive management team down about how to be more interactive with data and use real-time data and make more decisions around interactive and real-time data. And that means more diversity in what you look at than just the standard reports. And I think that's a really key concept. I think the starting point here is a tracking issue, and you're always going to get a customer that comes to the site has no intention of buying. Either your products aren't good, or they don't have any interest to buy at all. They don't have any money. You're always going to have these sort of unconvertibles, let's call them. But the thing around the 95% or the 97% is it's actually probably just the same person on a different device now. This is prolific now across multiple devices, or they've changed browser. The more we can create a single view of the visitor across multiple devices by encouraging login, by creating better experiences around identifying yourself, the more we're going to actually understand this exact customer and the journey that they're actually taking. So I think this number is going to come down, not because we're necessarily converting dramatically more, but we're understanding who those customers are. And once we understand who those customers are, multi-device, across the whole journey, then we can start to really drive value. So the more you can do to encourage your customer to save baskets and to create compelling experiences to log in, that's going to change the game here, and it's going to make a very big difference to attribution of your marketing, as well as to your ability to convert customers.